Before doctors saved lives, they drilled holes in skulls, prescribed poisonous mercury, and bled dying patients until they had no blood left to lose. The history of medicine is a terrifying, brilliant, humbling story of humanity's 10,000-year attempt to answer one question. Why do people get sick, and how do we make them better? And the answers, when they finally came, were so simple that their discovery is almost unbelievable. The story begins not in hospitals but in caves. We know from skeletal remains that prehistoric humans, 10,000 years ago, performed surgery. Trepanation, the drilling of holes in the skull, is the oldest surgical procedure known. Skulls from Neolithic sites in France and Peru show clean, healed boreholes. The patients survived. We don't know why they did it, to release evil spirits, relieve pressure, treat headaches. But they did it and people lived. Ancient Egyptian medicine, documented in the Ebers Papyrus of 1550 BC, was a fascinating mix of the practical and the magical. Egyptians correctly identified the heart as the center of the blood system. They used willow bark for pain, which contains salicylic acid, the active compound in aspirin, though they didn't know why it worked. And they performed cataract surgery. But alongside these genuine insights, their treatments included applying crocodile dung to wounds and prescribing mouse urine for earaches. This mix of insight and nonsense was not stupidity. It was the result of working without the scientific method, without controlled experiments, without the ability to distinguish what actually worked from what seemed to work. The ancient Greeks tried to move medicine away from magic. Hippocrates, practicing in the 5th century BC, insisted that disease had natural causes, not supernatural ones. He observed patients systematically. He recorded symptoms. He understood that the body often healed itself, and that the physician's job was to help, not hinder, that process. His Hippocratic oath, the principle that physicians should first do no harm, is still the moral foundation of medicine today. His observation-based approach was revolutionary. But Hippocrates made one fundamental error that would dominate medicine for 2,000 years. He proposed that all illness was caused by imbalances in 4 bodily fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. The theory was called humorism. It was completely wrong. And because Hippocrates was so revered, nobody seriously challenged it for 20 centuries. The consequences were catastrophic. If illness was caused by excess blood, the cure was to remove blood. Bloodletting, cutting veins and draining blood into bowls, was the dominant medical treatment from ancient Greece to the 19th century. George Washington, the first American president, suffered a throat infection in 1799 and was bled 5 times in 24 hours. He lost 40% of his blood volume. He died the next day. The treatment likely killed him faster than the disease would have. If excess phlegm was the problem, you needed to induce sweating and vomiting. Calomel mercury chloride was prescribed as a purge throughout the 18th and 19th centuries. Mercury is a deadly neurotoxin. The cure routinely caused tremors, dementia, and death. The person who broke the 2,000-year dominance of humorism was not a famous physician. He was a Flemish anatomist named Andreas Vesalius, who in 1543 published On the Fabric of the Human Body, the first accurate, detailed anatomical atlas based on actual human dissection. Vesalius dissected dozens of human corpses, illegal in most of Europe, requiring the bodies of executed criminals, and discovered that Galen, the ancient Greek physician whose anatomical work had been accepted as gospel, had made hundreds of errors. Galen had dissected pigs and monkeys and assumed humans were the same. They were not. Vesalius was attacked, ridiculed, and accused of sacrilege. But the evidence was in the drawings. Human anatomy was not what authorities had claimed. If the foundation was wrong, the entire edifice needed examination. Then came William Harvey. In 1628, Harvey published his proof that blood circulates through the body in a closed loop, pumped by the heart. This seems obvious today. At the time, it was heresy. For 1,400 years, Galen's model had said blood was created in the liver and consumed by the body. Harvey showed this was impossible. The heart pumped more blood in 30 minutes than the total blood volume of the body. It had to circulate. Harvey's discovery didn't immediately improve medical practice. Doctors kept bloodletting for another 200 years anyway. But it established something crucial. The body could be understood as a machine, following discoverable physical laws. Then came the microscope. Antony van Leeuwenhoek, the Dutch lensmaker we met in the scientific revolution, became the first person to see bacteria. He called them animalcules, tiny animals, and found them everywhere. But the connection between these tiny creatures and disease would take another 200 years to establish. That connection was made by Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch in the 1860s and 1870s. Pasteur's germ theory, the idea that specific microorganisms cause specific diseases, is the foundational insight of modern medicine. Koch, working with anthrax and tuberculosis, proved it experimentally by isolating the bacteria, growing them in pure culture, infecting a healthy animal, and recovering the same bacteria from the sick animal. Koch's postulates remain the gold standard for establishing that a microorganism causes a disease. But even before germ theory was fully established, one doctor had already saved thousands of lives just by washing his hands.